or music without much variety, and turn it into melodies and harmonies and vocal lines and instrumental accompaniment. Baptiste notations are the earliest known transcriptions of black music in the Americas.
Yeah. And I'll say just one more thing. Some of these instruments you may recognize. We'll say a little bit more, but this is my chance to introduce here this one. It's called the Harana, and this Elizabeth Caton Lingold. Mary Caton Lingold. Sorry, I was Mary Elizabeth, Queen names, right? She talks about Monsieur Baptiste and says that he was kind of a cosmopolitan person in that African Atlantic moment that she talks about in her book. And he said he may have been trained, he may have been educated in a place like Veracruz. And so I've been working with some other folks to learn about the son jarocho tradition in Veracruz. And this is a fascinating instrument because, like the banjo, it records the moment of contact in that African Atlantic, in the colonial contact that happened there in Mexico. And you can come and see it. It's a fascinating instrument because it uses the form of the Baroque guitar and it looks like that. It's got multiple courses, friction pegs, but it uses indigenous technology as well. It's all one piece of wood here in the back. It's a separate piece for the top, but it's kind of like a musical canoe. It's been dug out all on the inside so that it can survive tropical weather in Veracruz. So you'll hear one of the things that I brought. I've been in that. So this is from the other side of the Afro-Caribbean kind of arc there, as a way to bring in some different rhythm that is kind of evokes that time, but also the place and that period of encounter. So we'll start with the Coromantee, the first one. So there are 3 episodes here that we have written down. How they fit together is kind of a mystery, but we've treated them separately because they are very musically separate. Lots of tuning.
Yeah. These gut strings.
Yeah.
They might change. This is also another instrument that you probably wouldn't expect to see in this type of music, but this is viola da gamba, specifically the bass viola da gamba, which was popular during the Renaissance and is just a well-known instrument within the early music genre. And so I don't normally play this. I only started learning this a few months ago, so it's been a really interesting experience figuring this out, especially with unique tuning that's just unlike any other instrument I've played, as well as interesting technique where you deliberately touch the bow hair, like that's what you're supposed to do, which is kind of mind-blowing. But it's been an interesting experience, and I've been enjoying it so far despite all the challenges. And the next part of the Coromantee we'll be doing is the second part, which is my personal favorite, as it has a really unique sound. It's in a minor key, and it sort of has a sound that invokes like Baroque music, specifically Vivaldi, while also having a sort of crooked rhythm as you would see in like old time music. So I think this sort of blend of ideas makes for a really fun but also engaging learning and playing experience.
You were starting this one before you switched to 10 Bill. So. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you very much. This has been a real pleasure to be able to work through this music, and it's something that has been on my mind quite a bit. I will go into my personal biography for a little bit. I was born in, up until coming to school at East Tennessee, was living in just south of Ottawa, Canada, and a job that I've had many years during the summer when I was not in school has been working for a history museum, or a living history museum, as a musician. And early in my first year there, my boss had recently acquired a fresh new book off the press, Well of Souls, and that's something that was a very hot commodity for the team of 6 musicians there. And we were, I spent most of the summer when I wasn't on site doing that, reading this book and learning all about the history of this. And I come from a both bluegrass and classical background, and this is very much putting everything that I know about that type of music aside and thinking of it in a lot of different contexts. Although the violin was the modern violin, at least, created in Italy, there have been bowed instruments of this nature for forever, since humans were making music. But this has been, it's thanks to Lee Bidgood, I've been borrowing this wonderful gut string violin, and this is a Baroque bow.
Yes.
This Baroque bow, and it's changed a little bit how I'm performing all this. And even thinking of that last one, it's natured in a lot of techniques that I've used before, but just changing it into that rhythm. As soon as we had changed from playing the viol to playing the tambourine and having the rhythm, it's changed completely how I perceive this music. And even coming into the next one, there's certain intricacies that that sort of our mind collectively can't really comprehend. Of like, you're looking through Monsieur Baptiste when he was transcribing this, or at least when transcribing this in modern notation, you're reading it, and it seems like it doesn't fit, and it's very seemingly through composed, but we've sectioned it out into what we think could be variations on the base melody of it. And although it's written all as one, we're thinking that probably the performer of this would have been thinking of this as an original theme and then variations on that theme. And even another slight problem of modern notation is that it's either sharp or flat or natural, and not all world music is structured this way. So there's a lot of G sharps in this, although the tune is written in the key of D. And then there's a few G naturals that sneak their way in there that at first I was thinking were were written just seemingly that's how it would be, but I'm imagining that most likely the performer would have been playing a note that wasn't G or G sharp, and then Monsieur Baptiste just took a guess as to what was closest and was writing that down. And even now I'm thinking it might have been closer to a G, and that some of these could have been functioning as like almost what you'd consider a blue note in modern music. So we'll perform this movement 3 of Corvanti. Movement 3, I guess. We're starting this one off, I believe.
Let's try that again. remains the most obscure to us.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think, so that first piece that we played makes me think of music from the Iberian Peninsula in this period of time, from the 1600s. Gaspar Sanz, folks like that, right? A lot of these pieces sound kind of like this, especially that first one, the da ba da da ba da ba 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 da ba da ba ba. This one, I don't know what's going on. I mean, it was really helpful to listen to the musical passages. Those examples were really interesting. And we were saying, yeah, when we heard that, there was like one track of Cormati 3, just banjo, and then the track that had this amazing, really great polyrhythmic percussion, like a lot of different percussion layers. And we were thinking, oh yeah, that makes a whole heck of a lot more sense with that. And that's one of the things for us. We see these notes written on the page, and we have our own, especially if we have like Western classical training, we have our instincts for what we do with that if it's written on the page. And here, it's just, we think of that, oh, the melody is what the music is, but it's not. I mean, when you hear that recording, it's like, oh, this is not music until it has a whole bunch of people dancing and singing and making it real.
Can I comment on something about this as well?
Yeah.
Just to comment on something that like approaching this, looking at it at first, like I was going back to my classical training, which I haven't done in years, and sight reading, and it was this. I was approaching it as if everything I needed to know about the music was on the page, and I'm realizing that in approach, this needs to be a lot more like I would approach fiddle music or approaching something more traditional in nature, or vernacular in nature, I should say. That it requires it requires a certain feel and the things that you can't get on the page, more understanding the rhythm of what's implied. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Before we go, I did not introduce everyone. Y'all, I'm remiss. I was so nervous. I'm getting excited. This is Preston Alexander on the bass violin. Reed Warren on the fiddle. And Roy Andrade was going to be here for a number of reasons. My colleague Roy couldn't be here, so my other colleague, Colin Hayden, fabulous banjoist. So
I'd like to thank Lee Bidgood for taking us through all this and being wonderful to
So, as you can see, this whole process has involved a lot of us sitting around talking about this, playing through it, taking it away, coming back, reading the book, doing some other research, getting context. We're going to do Pompey Ran Away. And so we were deciding what we would do. And one of the things that really made me most excited was to play the pieces for which these sources show the greatest. There's a lot of pieces in there that are representations of blackness. Right? And then from Monsieur Baptiste with Lingold's hypothesis, like this was a person of color who was writing this down. And in the last piece we'll play the Roaring River. Solomon Northrop had some agency into it. With this one we want to do Pompey Ran Away, which is we're less sure how that all happened.
We're very unsure how that all happened.
But
Pompey Ran Away is one that some of you in the room might be familiar with. And one of those reasons, and this is that idea of books being really important things because it increases access. And that is that Pompey Ran Away is a piece that Dina Epstein included in her book, Sinful Tunes and Spirituals, Black Folk Music to the Civil War. And so, it's in that piece. People can look at it, people can read it, and people did read it, and people played it. And this is one of the few pieces that you can put into YouTube and, get pieces, get videos to watch. The thing is that we have that, and we have all these people playing it, and we even put Virginia 1782, and I feel bad about that now. If I could change it, I would probably put Glasgow, Scotland 1782, because that's where it appears. It appears in a published collection in 1782 in Glasgow, Scotland. At first glance, that also might be surprising, but we have to remember how international the world was even at that point. And there was especially a lot of Scottish presence, both in Virginia, in the Chesapeake, but also in the Caribbean. So you had a lot of Scottish second sons who were not going to inherit any land, and they needed to figure out a way to make money. And they knew that they could go to the Caribbean, or they could especially the Caribbean. They stayed a little bit longer in the Chesapeake, but in the Caribbean, they could be a part of the brutal system of slavery, sometimes as overseers, but sometimes just as accountants or other managerial office type jobs. If you could stay there for 5 years, you could earn, and you didn't drink your money away, you could earn so much money that you could go back to Scotland or Edinburgh or even London and buy property and become something. So that's kind of the way, maybe one of the ways that this tune got to Scotland, but we really don't know. It's still on my docket of things to figure out. But it has the subtitle Negro Jig, which, assumes that it came from African American source, but maybe not. Maybe it was somebody who imagined that that's what this sounded like. We don't know because we have so little information about it. But I think that putting it into this collection with these other pieces kind of helps us figure that out.
Yeah, for me, I've heard this piece for a long time from various places. I just did not know what to make of it, so we had to sit down and make something of it. And again, for me, it was, I started playing around with these kind of Veracruz son jarocho rhythms, and it just started to make a little more sense. So we'll see what you all think.
Things in tune real quick before I start talking. I'm not the best at talking and tuning. So I'd say for me, the biggest challenge that I found as a banjo player, and specifically an old-time banjo player, is that I'm kind of locked into more of a straighter rhythm. And obviously, most of these pieces that we play aren't in 4/4 time. So I'm sort of having to find ways to adapt my right hand around that and get some of those little, I guess, quarter notes and eighth notes in there, if that's what you would consider them. I'm not very theoretical about things, I guess, and that was the other sort of challenge, is that I don't read sheet music or tab, so I had to depend on.
Good for you.
I had to depend on Lee or Reed to play one of these pieces, and then as we were rehearsing, I just sort of chased them around on it until I had an idea of how the melody goes. So all this combined, I'd say the piece from our project that I'm the most excited about is one called Roaring River from Solomon Northrup's book, 12 Years a Slave. And one of the interesting things about that piece is that the bowing and sort of the articulations are on the sheet music.
Helps me out a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. And I guess it's probably the closest thing to going back to a source recording and trying to replicate what you're hearing for that reason. And Solomon Northup had mentioned that he would play the fiddle for house parties, and his master would take all the pay, but he was allowed to play for tips. And he was also relieved of doing a hard day's work in the field. So he would take advantage of playing these house parties as often as he could. And the other thing that happened is, because he was being presented in public, he was given nicer clothes to wear. And so even though he endured a lot of the terrible hardships that come with slavery, his music was able to bring some I guess, some joy and some hope into his life. Yeah.